Hello, I hope that you're having the most nourishing day, and I'm so honored that you landed here with me in this present moment. Today I wanted to answer some of your questions that you asked over on my Instagram, and if you don't follow me there, you can find it here. I'd love to have you join me over there as well, but I wanted to dive into some of your questions and get to know me as well as Kyle better and dive into all of the juicy goodness you had to ask. I got so many questions asking how Kyle, my husband, and I met, and it feels like a good place to start. It is my favorite love story, and it is one of my favorite stories to tell, but it's a long-winded story and something that I want to share. Kyle and I share together to you, and that video will be coming soon, but I will give you the cliff notes. We met through mutual friends, and we got set up on a blind date. We both saw one, maybe two pictures of each other via text, and we were supposed to meet on a, let's say Sunday, I think, for a double date with the said mutual friends. And 2 days prior to that, I had gotten in line behind him at the grocery store. And I texted my friend and I was like, I think this is Kyle in front of me. And she was like, talk to him. And I was so nervous, but I was like, are you Kyle? And he's like, are you Rachel? And he carried my groceries out to my car and was like, I can't wait to actually get to know you and meet you in more depth on Sunday. And that's how our love story started. We met at our now favorite grocery store that we both go to together very often. And yeah, how old are Kyle and I? We actually have a very large age gap. And it's interesting because I was definitely like calling in my partner. I was ready to be in a relationship, and I'd written out a list of like the person that I was calling in. And I always thought that like I wanted someone around my age. But when I wrote my list, I really wrote it from a place of like, I'm not letting my ego get involved, like what really is in my heart. And I wrote that age didn't matter. If they were younger or if they were older, as long as they were the person, it really didn't matter. And I found that list like a couple months after Kyle and I were dating, and we had moved in together already, when I was unpacking and going through things. And he was exactly the list that I had written and so much more. But the age really didn't matter because he is 14 years older than me. I am 32 and he is 46. And it is a funny banter, mostly on my end, of me calling him an old man, and that has always been a joke that we've had because there is an age difference, and you know, you can tell it in certain regards. Like, I'm very much an old soul, and I think we meet in that space, and he's so like not up to date with like technology and things like that. And so I am very much like the young person in this relationship and having to figure out all those new things that are happening, which is funny. He's always like, my computer's not working, can you help? Or I need help with this technological thing. I'm the person. So I'm 32 and he's 46. What made me fall in love with my husband? Whew, there's so much that made me fall in love with him. But if I had to distill it into something, it is just how safe I felt with him. I think as women, we are fed this idea through movies and the stories that we read and the stories that we're told that you're gonna have this grand like explosion of love, and it's gonna be fireworks, and it's gonna be an overwhelming thing. And in my experience, the relationships that I've had that ended up being fairly toxic in my past, whereas this relationship was so different because I just felt safe. I felt calm. I felt centered, and I felt grounded whenever I was with him. Like, I felt home, truly. He never judged me at that point in time when we met. I was driving Uber. I was a nanny, and I was just making things work. And I didn't have a career path. I didn't know what I wanted, and I still don't really know. But he didn't judge me. I remember he drove me home the first time we hung out on that double date, and I was telling him this, and he was just so fascinated, and he was like, tell me more. And like, he didn't judge me, where in the past when I was dating, that was the experience that I had. That's what I felt. I'd be met with experiences where people wanted someone who had a career path, who had their 5-year plan, their 10-year plan, and I have a today kind of plan. And he just made me feel so safe and not judged and celebrate it and all of these things, and saw it as like all of these unique gifts that I have, and then how cool it is that I explored all these things. And he also is just like the kindest soul. Like we would drive, when we were first dating, he'd see garbage on the side of the road and he'd pull over to pick it up, and it was just like he cared. And I mean, he still very much cares. He just is the most kind, loving person. After our first time hanging out, in that season of my life, I was exploring having a podcast, and it was the very beginning stages of it. And I told him, I have like a podcast interview that I'm doing tomorrow, which maybe I should do something like that again, because I loved having beautiful conversations with people. But he called me that following morning, and I was like, this is weird, but I answered it. And he was like, oh, I thought I was going to get your voicemail, but it's so good to hear your voice, and I just wanted to like wish you luck on the interview today. And that was it. He just wanted to wish me luck, and it was like so foreign to me. Like, it was hard enough to get someone to text me, let alone call me and just like have listened and paid attention to what I was saying and have interest. He was just so kind and thoughtful. He's still very much kind and thoughtful, and I love him so much. I touched on this a little bit, but what were Kyle and I's previous jobs? I've had the gamut of jobs. I got a degree in fashion business, bachelor's degree from Columbia College in Chicago, which is a liberal arts school. I then immediately moved to New York City, where I was a fashion stylist assistant, and my goal was that by the time I was 25, I would be a lead stylist. And at, I believe I was 23, I got the opportunity to be the lead fashion stylist for Kate Spade's e-commerce. And I did that, and I was in that position and realized this is not what I thought I wanted. At a point in time, I was very much becoming aware of how horrible the fashion industry was for the environment, and became very involved in living a more intentional, environmentally friendly lifestyle, and that like just didn't meet. And that also led me down a spiritual path of being like, well, this is how I have to pay my bills right now, and so how can I find some peace in my mind? And so I started exploring all types of meditation and spiritual practices. And that led me to working at a wellness space as a studio manager. And then from there, I got introduced to my tea practice, and that led me to travel to Taiwan to study. And when I returned to New York City from that experience, there were all these signs that were telling me I needed to leave New York, and I just didn't know what that meant. And that led me here to Colorado. I bought a one-way ticket with no plan, no expectations, other than I was going to help someone in the tea community who had a tea business, and in exchange I'd have a place to live while I kind of figured out my next steps. And I fell in love with Colorado, and I moved here, and then I've just had a bunch of odd jobs. I have worked for a coffee alternative company. I was a nanny, which I absolutely loved. I drove Uber. I have walked dogs. I've done a bunch of odd things and just made ends meet. And then I started sharing through social media, and that slowly become a small portion of my income, a very, very small portion of my income. Once Kyle had this recurrence, I stepped into the role as caregiver and am paid to be his caregiver, which is truly the greatest gift on both of our parts, that I'm able to be fully present to him and this experience. And just endlessly grateful for all of the people who advocated for us to advocate to seek out that opportunity of having those benefits and finding the way that they were available, and it is a gift. For Kyle, he also has had many, many odd jobs, but he was a caretaker, aide, just, I don't even know what you would describe it. He cared for an elderly man for, I believe, 13 years. His name was Leonard. In his birthday video that I shared back in August, I had given him a picture of Leonard, who he worked for 13 years. When he was younger. And so they just had a really sweet bond, and they loved each other so, so much. And so he just kind of did all the little things that he needed, run errands, drive him, take care of the house so that he didn't have to be in a nursing home. And it's like it was a perfect thing for him. I so wish that I could have met Leonard, because he seems like the kindest soul. And also, whenever Kyle talks about him, he just gets a sparkle in his eyes, and you can tell how much he loves him and how much he meant to him. He also worked in mental health. He was a case manager for a organization here in town that helps people with mental illness, and he, again, is the most compassionate, loving person, and he was great at that job. Did that until 2016 when he had his first reoccurrence of his brain tumor. And the reason that he realized his tumor had come back is that he stopped being able to write client notes. Like, he couldn't remember things, and that was the first sign of something's not right. So we both have just had a lot of odd jobs, but for him mostly in the caring for others space, and me just a bunch of random things. Let's segue into some more personal, lifestyle-y questions. This is a heavy hitter. Did I grow up going to church? I grew up going to Catholic church. My father is Catholic, and when I was, I want to say 6 or 7, my mom converted to Catholicism. My parents renewed their vows in the Catholic church, and I grew up going to Sunday school. I grew up going to Mass every Sunday, and then, going for the holidays. And then I was confirmed Catholic at whatever age you're confirmed Catholic. Kyle, church wasn't really a part of his upbringing, and for both of us, we believe that there's something beyond us. We believe that there's something that connects us all, but we don't believe that there's one person. There isn't necessarily God in the way that we think of it in organized religion, and I think that we can be spiritual and we can be connected without having to be a part of organized religion, and that just personally doesn't resonate with me. Having been raised in organized religion, I always questioned it, and my beliefs didn't necessarily align with what I was being told was like the correct thing. I have a cousin who was openly gay, and I remember sitting in church and he's sitting in front of me while I'm listening to the priest say, "Let's pray for our gay brothers and sisters that they find their way back." And that just felt so wrong to me, because I don't think there's anything wrong with my cousin. I don't think that there's anything wrong with anyone in whatever sexual preference they have. And that really, I think, put up the red flags for me of like, this does not align with me. I don't want to support and give my belief to something that feels so far from what I feel is right in my personal experience. I'm spiritual and believe that we're all interconnected in our whatever way that is, but do not practice any sort of organized religion. And that is what feels right for me. But I do very much have a spiritual practice that I show up to every day, and that is my tea practice. I have been practicing it for 7.5 years, where I sit every single morning in a silent tea meditation. It is a moving meditation. Honestly, it has been the most constant thing in my life, the most grounding practice. And it's something that each year I probably miss only a handful of days, because it really is something that I find such great value in, something that nourishes me in my mind, my body, and my soul. And so it is a practice that I keep coming back to again and again. And if you want to learn more about it, I'd love to share an in-depth video, but let me know in the comments if that is something that you'd like to learn more about. In a nutshell, it truly is just sitting and intentionally drinking many bowls of tea. And it sounds simple, and it is, but in that, it just connects you to yourself, to nature, and to everything beyond, and calms the mind, calms the nervous system. And I think we all need that in this very high-paced, moving world that we live in this modern time. What would you call your aesthetic? I honestly don't know. A hodgepodge. I like mid-century modern. I like just like unconventional, quirky things. I like things to just feel good. I don't know if it has a name. It just is cozy, homey, beautiful. Like, I just gravitate towards things that feel really good for me. Things that when I touch them, they have a nice feel. I want my home and my space, my clothing, everything to just feel good. I'm very much a Taurus, and just like the earthliness of this experience of being alive, of the tangibility of feeling things and making beauty. Hence probably why I like making videos and sharing my story, and also putting together outfits and creating things in our home and making our home feel beautiful. And so I don't have a name for it. I don't know what I would call it. It's called, I don't know. It's called whatever feels good, whatever I like, and whatever I gravitate towards, I go for it. What is my dream job? I don't honestly want to have a job. If I'm being honest, I don't ever want to work a 9-to-5. I don't ever want to have a boss. I like the independence, I like the flexibility, and I like the freedom of being able to be at home. And so this season of my life feels really nourishing. Before Kyle went on this journey and I became his full-time caregiver, I remember us standing on our deck, and I said it would just be so nice for me to get paid to like do all the things of researching and learning things, and to get to share that, get to cook food and explore the possibilities that are available for healing and living a beautiful, vibrant life. And I feel like I'm doing that. I think I manifested it in that moment, and it's maybe not exactly what I thought, but that's very much, I feel like, what this season of life is looking like. And it feels really great that that is where I'm meant to be, and I'm just trusting this journey. I would love to have content creation be more the full-time thing, and Kyle need less of my care, and that's the goal, and we'll get there. Dream car. This is an interesting one because Kyle and I both have really old cars that are nearing the end of their life. And so we've been reflecting on what type of car we realistically could, one, afford, which is a very low budget, and what we would want. And my dream car is, I would love for us to have a van that we could travel in and see the country, go to Mexico, go to Canada, and be able to just like camp out in that. That is one. And I'd also love some sort of vintage car. I think that the cars that we have in our modern time are just not nearly as beautiful as they once were, and we've lost so much taste that we used to have as a culture, and the way that we created spaces and places and cars and all the things. Like, everything just used to have like this juicy beautifulness to it, and everything feels a little sterile now. So I think I'd want some sort of classic vintage car. That would be a dream, and have it converted to an electric car. There is a car repair shop near here where they actually take old cars and convert them to electric. So I know where I would go if that was ever a possibility. But like an old vintage truck, or an old, I don't know, just an old car. That would be my dream. Dream living location. I love where we live. I love the mountains so much. I think the only thing that would propel us to leave here is just wanting less harsh winters. They are very harsh. And I think we both would love to be near water. The ocean would be amazing, but even to have more bodies of water that we could just swim in. I don't know where that is. We had talked about maybe moving to Maine at some point in time several years ago, and just is too gloomy. I love how sunny it is so many days of the year living in Colorado. I don't think I could have like the gloomy winters that are the Northeast. Having lived in the Northeast, seasonal depression is very much real, and I don't really have that here because it is sunny most of the time. If anything, I wish there was some gloom some days because I feel judged by the sun when I'm not productive, and it's like, it's nice out, go outside. It feels like the sun is judging me, but I don't know where that dream location would be. I've said for a while I'd love love, love, love to live in Portugal. Visited there several years ago and I loved it so much. I loved the culture, the people, and it was just beautiful. But I don't know. I think it would be really cool to live in another country for like 6 months to a year, and hopefully maybe that can become a possibility for Kyle and I somehow, some way. What has been nourishing me this fall season? I have just been loving reading. I am like blowing through books, and at night I will read for about a half hour to an hour before going to bed with my little reading light, and then when I wake up I also read for a half hour to an hour. It just feels like such a nourishing bookend, no pun intended, for the days, and it just feels like extra cozy because when I'm reading in the morning it's still dark out, and so I also use my reading light until it starts to get a little lighter, and then once it gets a little lighter I get up and start the kettle and I'll wake Kyle up, and it just feels so good. It feels so good. My favorite special treat or self-care product, oh man, I mean, my favorite self-care thing right now is my tea practice, moving my body. I've been doing Range by caregiver. It's her online platform, and it is the most intuitive, nourishing movement practice that I've ever done. It's Pilates in form, but it's so much more than that, and it just feels so good in my body. In terms of actual products, I love her sauna. It's a real freaking treat. And if I like want like a little treat for myself, I love getting some sort of like fizzy drink. Like if I'm like, ooh, I like want to reward myself, I love getting some sort of fancy beverage, sparkling water of sorts, or a really juicy juice or something like that. All right, moving into some more like health focused questions. Have I ever had a laparoscopic surgery for endometriosis? I have. I had it in March of 2023, so going on 2 years. It was a very pleasant experience. I had the best surgeon that I could have ever asked for, the best team. I had the most pleasant experience. The recovery was kind of hard. It took me a while to gain some of my energy back after surgery, like a couple months, honestly. But I'm so glad that I had the surgery because it did, in fact, let me know that I have stage 2 endometriosis. It also found that I had an appendix that was basically almost fully necrotic because of the endometriosis, and it was fully adhered to the side wall of my body, which when I talk about it, it's still slightly enraging because I had so many doctors tell me that my right side pain was nothing. I had multiple scans done that showed my appendix was totally fine, but it wasn't. So that is a reminder to always advocate for yourself. I self-referred to my surgeon, and he told me that most of his patients are self-referred because most doctors will not refer them because they don't think that there is a problem. Endometriosis is real. Period pain is not normal. Pain with sex is not normal. And your body and taking care of it is so important, and listening to it and advocating for yourself. So I'm so glad I did it. It did not solve my problems. I still very much have endometriosis pain, but I can very much place what that pain is, and that is so good for my mental well-being and just validating. And so that alone, the mental healing that it brought, is so healing. What is my Enneagram or my Myers-Briggs personality? I have no idea. Should I take the test? I may have done it before, but I don't remember what they are. I do know that in human design, I'm a projector, and that feels very resonant to me. And I'm a Taurus with a Leo sun, with a Leo, not sun, my Taurus is sun, Leo rising and Leo moon. So I got some Leo energy. That's why my hair is curly. I used to wear it a lot bigger, and sometimes that happens, but when I lived in New York, it just got so frizzy, and people are like, oh, I can tell you have Leo in your chart because your hair. So I just thought that was funny. Also, I make YouTube videos and share myself and my life, which makes total sense. I like being seen. That Leo very much shows up in that way. What are some of the unconventional things that Kyle and I have tried on this journey of cancer healing for him? There have been so many things we've tried. Breath work, cold plunging, saunas, all of the supplements, a keto diet, a vegan diet, a Lindo diet is what our Chinese medicine doctor calls it, which is where you eat a pretty low carb diet, but you eat beans. So it's not fully low carb, but you're getting your carbs from beans. And so that's kind of what we're doing now, version of that. We've tried IV therapy. We've tried mistletoe. There are countless things. I have shared a video way back. I will add it in the description with a lot of the things that we have tried, and there are a lot new things that we're probably gonna start trying, so I might have to update that video soon. This is it reminding me that I should do that. And the last question, and the one that feels the most touching, and I just send my love to this person. They wrote that they were diagnosed with a stage 4 astrocytoma back in June, and I just want to send you my love and my healing, and know that we are cheering you on, and know that healing is possible for you. They asked, I was diagnosed in June, how can I help my family cope? And I asked Kyle about this question because I think he's the better person to answer this question, and we both agreed that it's not your place as the person who's seeking healing, and that being your priority at this moment, your main priority, should not have to worry about how your family is coping. They need to be showing up for you and seeing how you can be best supported in coping. And I understand, because you want your family to cope, but I think the best thing that you can do, and the best thing that Kyle has done, is just advocate for what he needs and tell me and vocalize it so that I can show up in the best way for him. And in doing so, it has helped me cope, because I know how I can be of the greatest light and the greatest support for him on this path, because he's vocalized those needs to me. I think from the perspective of the caregiver, it's just remembering that it is so hard to find the oxygen mask to put it on as the caregiver and the people that love those who are going through these challenging things, and the ones that are closest to them especially. But you have to put your oxygen mask on. You have to find it, and whatever that is. And for me, that has looked like finding, even if I'm only able to sit for 3 bowls, 15 minutes of tea in my day, like giving myself that. Or making YouTube videos for me have been so incredibly healing. Sharing my experiences and vocalizing it has been so healing. And just finding those things that help you find yourself as the person not personally going through that experience. And I guess that would be my suggestion to them, is what are the things that will support you, and do those. And then this is how I need support, and what would be most helpful for me. And I hope that you are taking care of yourself and reminding yourself that right now you get to be selfish, and you kind of have to be. You are the number one priority, and healing is possible. You can heal. That is the belief that we're holding as we sit in a very similar position with the exact same diagnosis. And we are here supporting you and cheering you on, and are here in any way that we can be there for you. Thank you for all of your beautiful, thoughtful, personal, touching questions. I hope you took away new things about me and Kyle and our perspective on life and all of the things. I think I'll leave it at that. I've been talking a lot. I think this video is going to be very long. So I will see you in the next one.